So till now we have learned how to add keyframes in After Effects and how to create smooth motions using the eases and the other type of keyframes in After Effects. But to unlock the full potential in After Effects, you have to master the motion graph editor. So there are two different types of motion graph editor in After Effects, the value graph and the speed graph. And in this lesson 6 of the After Effects series, we will learn everything about the value graph editor in After Effects. And then in the final section of this video, we will learn how to animate a simple ball bounce, and then we will learn how to animate a ball bounce in perspective, all by using the value graph editor in After Effects. So make sure to watch till the end. And you can download the practice files of this video from the link in the description or from the link pinned in the comment section. And also in the next lesson, we will continue with the speed graph editor. So first let's check out what exactly is the value graph editor. So here we have a very simple position animation in a single dimension. And now let's check out the value graph. So select the property and get to the motion graph editor. For that, click on this graph icon here in the timeline, and here you have the value graph. Now, if you have different graphs selected over here, click over here and select edit value graph from here. Well, there is a problem with value graph in After Effects. When you are using the position property, you cannot use the value graph until you separate the dimensions. And that is not just limited to position property, it is also valid for other path-based properties such as the shape path property. So first we have to separate the dimension. So select the position property, right click on it and separate dimensions. And now we can delete the keyframe from y-axis and only work with x-axis. So here is the value graph editor, and right now we have simple linear keyframes. So that's why we have a straight line. So let's press F9 to erase the keyframes. So the value graph represents the value over time. And in this case, we are working with the position property. So here the position is calculated in pixels over time. And with a basic easy keyframe, we got a simple S-curve. So in a value graph, when you see a flat area, that means over here and over here, the shape is deaccelerating to stop the motion or accelerating at the start of the animation. And in the region where you see a steep curve, in that region, the shape is moving the fastest in this entire animation. So in simple terms, in value graphs, steepness equals speed. And with the basic easy keyframe, you already know the shape starts slowly, accelerates, reaches its maximum speed, that means at this particular region, and here we have a steep curve, and then deaccelerate to stop the motion. And if you notice the onion scaling effect for the in-between frames of this animation, you can notice the same. In both of these ends, we have the in-between frames compressed in both the ends. That means in these two ends, the shape is moving slowly, and in between, the spacing is maximum. That means at this region, the shape is moving at a maximum speed. Now let's check out how to use the value graph editor. So here we have a simple to and fro motion with easy keyframes in a single dimension. Now let's check out the value graph editor of this animation. So in the value graph, these handles you see over here are the Bezier handles. So with the help of the Bezier handles, you can change the curvature of the curve. And in this case, if you change the curvature, you can directly change the easing of the motion graph. Now when you try to select the Bezier handles and try to pull it, it is not going to snap in any of the axes. So to snap it in either of the axes, you have to pull it in that direction and then press and hold the shift key. And when I am pulling the Bezier handles, it is only moving in the x-axis itself. And when you pull the Bezier handles, you actually add more ease to it. And you can notice how the onion scaling is being affected while I am pulling this Bezier handles and adding more ease or decreasing the ease. That means when I'm pulling the Bezier handles and giving it more ease, the in-between keyframes, the in-between frames are more compressed over here. So the more I pull the Bezier handles, I'm adding more ease. That means in this particular region, the shape is going to move really slow. And as I have pulled the Bezier handles to add more ease over here, the mid section where it had the maximum speed is no longer the mid section of these two keyframes. The point the shape is going to achieve the maximum speed has also shifted in this side. Now if you check it out in the onion skinning, at this particular region the shape is going to move at a maximum speed and the in between frames are more spread out than before. That means at this particular region the shape is going to move really fast. So let's preview the animation for a moment. Let's check out what's the difference now. You can easily spot the difference over here. From here to here the shape is starting very slow and then moving very fast, and then from here to here we have a normal easy ease movement. Now if we pull all the Bezier handles and add more ease to all the keyframes, you can see we have made the animation even more interesting. Now at the mid portion of this motion path, the shape is moving really fast, and in both the ends the shape is taking more time to travel. Now what happens if we make the exact opposite of this? Now if I select this Bezier handle and make it stiff, remember what I have mentioned earlier, in value graph stiffness equals speed. So here we have an ease, here the curve is stiff, and let's make these Bezier handles also stiff and let's check out how it looks. Now you can see how just by changing the direction of the Bezier handle we can change the overall feel of the animation. So now it looks like the ball is hitting an invisible wall every time it reaches over here. And now let's change the Bezier handle direction of these two Bezier handles. So let's change the direction of this Bezier handle. Oh, by the way, if the Bezier handles are locked, then you can unlock it by pressing and holding the Alt key. And now when you bring the cursor near the Bezier handle, you can see how the cursor has changed. Now if you select and drag the Bezier handle, you can break the Bezier handle. Now if you again press and hold the Alt key and try to drag the Bezier handle, you are going to again lock the Bezier handle from both the side. So let's make this curve stiff as well. And now it feels like the shape is hitting wall in both the ends, and in between the shape is moving the slowest. And if we compare the motion curve with the onion skinning, for this curve the Bezier handles are completely stiff, and the more we travel towards the center of the curve we get flat curve. That means eased curve, and due to this reason in the onion skinning effect the in-between frames are most compressed in this region. The same is also valid for this curve as well. And now I'm going to share with you some top secret tricks with the value graph editor to attain a smooth motion in After Effects. Alright, so now we are going to redo the assignment from the keyframes lesson using the value graph editor. So the ball is going to enter the screen, dodge all the shapes and then gets outside the screen. Okay, let's select the ball layer, open the position property and separate the dimension. Now let's add keyframe on the X and the Y axis. Let's place the ball outside the screen. Let's jump on to next 20 frame and let's bring it inside the screen and we're going to place it over here. One more thing, when you separate the dimension of the position property, you lose the control of adding curve to the motion path or bringing the Bezier handles to change the curvature. So while separating the dimension, you get the option to use the value graph editor, but you lose the control to change the motion path in the composition window. So this is what you have to keep in mind while you are separating the dimensions of the position property. Now let's jump on to next 20 frames again and let's place the ball over here. Let's jump on to next 20 frames and let's place it over here. Again jump on to next 20 frame and let's place the ball and move it outside the screen. Let's select the Y position property, press F9 to ease the keyframes. As we have eased the keyframes, you can instantly see how the ease keyframes have added curvature to the motion path and overall smooth out the overall motion path. Now if we jump onto the value graph editor and try to change the easing, we can further change the curvature with the motion graph editor itself. So this is one way with which you can change the motion path in the composition window when you have the position properties dimensions separated. Okay, now let's start the animation with a stiff curve. So let's select the Bezier handle and make this stiff. Now let's select this Bezier handle and we are going to first lock the Bezier handle. So select the keyframe. There is another way to lock the Bezier handle. You can click on this icon called Auto Bezier. If you click on it, the Bezier handles are completely locked. Now you can press and hold the shift key to completely snap it in the x-axis and pull the Bezier handle. Again, let's select this and lock it. And now if you want to unlock the Bezier handle, then press and hold the Alt key and then click and drag. And if it's not unlocked yet, then again press and hold the Alt key and drag it again. It's going to unlock. Okay, let's add ease on this side as well. Let's select this one and again lock the Bezier handles and let's add ease here as well, and also for this one. Now let's preview the animation. Well, it's already looking pretty good, and now we're going to add even more ease where the Bezier handles are eased out. And also I would like to add an ease at the start as well. And here is another trick I generally use while I'm adding hard ease is that I don't keep the Bezier handles completely flat. When you keep the Bezier handles completely flat, that means at this position, the speed is going to be completely zero. But if you slightly tilt the Bezier handles very little, not too much, then the speed is not going to be completely zero. It is going to be near zero, but it is still going to travel at a very slow speed. So that is what we are going to do. We are going to add the ease, but at the same time, we are not going to stop the shape at any point of time. So select this one as well. Let's add again a hard ease. At the same time, we are going to add a little tilt in the Bezier handles. And now if you preview the overall animation, you can notice that the overall feel of the animation has changed a bit. So now the animation is looking even better. So to add some more ease in this region, you can either pull the Bezier handles even more, but there is a better way. You can actually add a keyframe here in the motion graph itself. So for that, you have to press and hold the control key, and now the cursor have changed. If you click on the graph, you have added a keyframe over here. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to move the curve above. But note that you are not going to move the curve above this one because this is the maximum height the ball is going to travel over here. So we have to keep in mind about that. And let's add some more ease in this Bezier handle as well. Let's do the same over here. Let's pull it above. We can do the same for this one as well. And let's add another keyframe over here and let's pull it this side. So for the value graph, all you have to make sure is that the overall curve is looking smooth. That is all you have to take care of. Alright, let's check out the animation now. Now you can notice a different feel to the animation. We get a very snappy movement in this portion of the movement. So like this, just by changing the direction of the Bezier handle, you can give an overall different feel to the animation. And now it's time for the ball bounce animation. So let's open the position property, separate the dimension. We're going to start with animating only the y-axis. Let's add a keyframe and let's jump on to next 15 frame. And let's move the ball up to this height. And let's jump on to next 15 frame again. And let's copy this keyframe. Ctrl C to copy and Ctrl V to paste it over here. Let's select the keyframe. Press F9 to erase it. Jump onto the motion graph editor. The value graph. So select the value graph and we're going to make both these two sides stiff with the Bezier handle because the ball is falling under gravity. And here we are going to add even more ease because that's the maximum height the ball is going to reach after striking the ground. Okay, let's bring the work area end over here and let's play it in a loop. So it's looking pretty decent, so we're going to go with this one. Now, if you want to stop the ball bouncing after a certain time, then you have to follow a decay curve for the maximum height the ball reaches each time after a bounce. And also the number of bounce may vary depending on the mass of the ball. So a golf ball will have a significant number of more bounces compared to a bowling ball. And we are considering this ball as something similar to a golf ball. So let's create a decay curve with the help of the value graph editor. So let's duplicate this layer one more time. Press it below and press U to open the position. Delete the first keyframe and let's place this keyframe over here. And let's jump on to around 3 second 25 frames. And let's place this keyframe over here. And let's bring the work area end around here. And let's jump on to the value graph editor. And is this Bezier handle, and we're going to make this Bezier handle TIFF. So this is the decay curve that we're going to follow for the ball bounce. Now, if you are animating a golf ball or something similar, then the decay curve will be similar to this one. But if it's a bowling ball or a very heavy ball, then you can simply increase the ease and increase the stiffness. And you can follow a curve similar to this one. Depending on the mass, you can increase the ease and the stiffness from these both ends. But we're going to follow this curve. So let's select this motion graph editor and we're going to click on this so that this curve is always visible over here. Now one more thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to match the height with the fast cycle of the bounce. So let's place it over here and this one looks good. So let's turn off the visibility of this ball. So the first cycle of the ball bounce took around 30 frames. The next cycle should be lesser than this one, so let's keep it 24 frames. So let's jump on to next 24 frame and let's add a keyframe over here. So to add a keyframe in the motion graph editor, press and hold the control key. The cursor have changed to this icon and now click on the motion graph editor. You have added a keyframe over here. Now pull the Bezier handle and make both the Bezier handles stiff. And also make sure the inclination of both the side of the Bezier handle are similar to get a proper symmetric arc. Now let's jump on to next 18 frame and let's add a keyframe. And let's pull the Bezier handles. And if the Bezier handles of both the sides are locked like this, just press and hold the Alt key to unlock the Bezier handle or to break the both side of the Bezier handles. Next jump on to next 14 frame and let's add a keyframe. Again pull the Bezier handles. Now next 10 frame. Now next 7 frame. By the way, you can zoom into the motion graph editor by pressing the plus key and zoom out by pressing the minus key. So let's zoom in and properly adjust the motion graph editor. Now let's jump on to next 5 frame and let's add a keyframe. And next 3 frame and let's add the very last bounce of this ball bounce animation. Let's preview the animation. So we're going to add a keyframe on the x-axis on the very first frame and let's add another keyframe on the x-axis few frames after the ball stops bouncing. So around here. Let's add a keyframe and let's move the ball over here. At the first frame, we are going to bring the ball from outside the screen. So select this keyframe and press F9 to erase it. And we are going to add a little rotation. So let's add a keyframe on rotation property. Let's jump on to the very last keyframe of the x-axis. And we are going to give 2 extra frame for rotation. Let's add a keyframe over here and let's rotate it by 3 full rotations. And again, erase it. And let's check out the animation. And here you have a proper ball bounce animation just following a few simple steps. Now let's see how to animate the ball bounce in perspective. So this is the perspective line the ball is going to follow and the vanishing point is somewhere around here. So select all the keyframes from this ball, copy it and paste it on this ball shape layer. And let's remove the keyframes from the rotation property. Okay, now let's select all the keyframes and move the ball over here so that we can move the whole animation with it. And now we're going to reposition the y-axis keyframes for each of the bounce. And let's compress the entire animation in x-axis so the whole animation fits within this line. And finally, I'm going to fix the position of this y position property. And then let's add a keyframe on the scale property. And let's move it over here and we're going to give the scale 0. And here we can increase the scale by around 250 And let's turn up the visibility of this perspective line. And let's jump onto the motion graph editor of the exposition property. And let's convert this keyframe into easiest keyframe, and we're going to make this curve stiff like this, because in this region the ball is near the camera and with time it is going further away from the camera. So when it is near the camera, it should appear like it's moving faster compared to when it is moving away from the camera. And we're going to give a similar motion curve for the scale property as well. So let's make this side stiff and let's ease at the end. So let's check out the animation. Alright, so here you have it. Alright, so that is it for this video. In the next lesson, we will learn everything about the speed graph editor in After Effects. So if you like the video, then make sure to hit the like button. If you have any doubts regarding the techniques, then make sure to comment down below. I'd be happy to help you out. And if you're here for the first time, then make sure to subscribe the channel and hit the bell notification button to stay notified for all the future updates. Until then, goodbye.